I'm Andrew Kappel, the host of the Leader Leverage podcast. On this show, we'll talk to revenue leaders, company executives, and entrepreneurs to hear how they unlock go-to-market leverage. Let's get started. Hey, Max, great to have you here. Let's jump right in. Tell me, how did you get into leadership?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I broke my way into leadership. So I was tasked with running the sales and instructor side of the Udemy platform. Um, they essentially were hiring somebody, their second business hire. That platform had two sides to it, a two-sided marketplace, sales side and a marketing side, essentially. And they had somebody on the marketing side that hired me on the sales side. And all of a sudden, here I am as kid right out of college. I had started two companies that had both failed, on the entrepreneurship side. And they gave me this opportunity because they knew they needed an entrepreneur to come in and build this from scratch, somebody with high agency who can come in and figure it out. And after doing that for 2 years and really learning and developing some strategies around all things go to market that were pretty future proof. We were leveraging virtual assistants to the Philippines, new technology, a lot of different things that I think we called sales hacks that were cutting edge. I started Sales Hacker, and now all of a sudden, I went from kind of a leadership role in this company that I broke into to now the boss of my own company. And it's interesting. I ran Sales Hacker for 5 years, had a decent sized 5-6 person team for most of that time. I also helped launch the SaaS Annual with Jason Lemkin, and we had about a similar sized team there. We accomplished quite a bit with a small team, and then sold the company to Outreach, joined Outreach, and now all of a sudden I am a marketing leader of a 20 plus person marketing team and a 250 person company, and I'm managing up, down, and sideways. And there's so much more to be mindful for. So it's interesting. And then after Outreach went back to the fund, and now I'm 5-person team again. So I've kind of had this unique kind of wave or story arc, so to speak, of one leading, but being in different types of leadership situations.
Interesting. And it sounds like you have a little bit of a preferred sweet spot or zone of genius for like the size of the group that that you're most at home with. And it's like probably also decoupling the head count with the impact, right? Like smaller
Yeah.
teams, you could do more sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely like the smaller teams a lot better. I like being the CEO and the boss, and really only having to manage down is obviously a lot easier than managing cross-functionally, side to side, up, down, all that. Even when you're in a large company, I mean, with Outreach, it was like I had to manage up to the CEO, and then I had to manage to the board. Then I had to manage across to all the other VP and C-level folks in different areas of the business. I was running marketing, so there was sales, there was customer success,
Yeah.
there was product, HR, you name it, and then down to your team. And I inherited a team when I got to Outreach. So like, on the one hand, it's like, okay, I have to then manage and lead a group of folks, but at the same time, I have to understand like, okay, who belongs here based on my strategy and my plan, my bar, and what do I need to bring in, and how do I change the culture of the organization to fit my style? How do I adapt to the style of the rest of the organization where that I don't have the power to change or control? So that was it's unique. It's an interesting experience on its own. I got a coach as soon as I got in there, and that was super helpful. And they were conducting 360 reviews on my behalf. We had an HR leader, and I remember really early on at Outreach, I work all the time. I always think about business. To me, this is a lifestyle, not
Yeah.
a job.
Yeah.
And I remember this person saying, "Oh, you're sending emails on weekends and nights, and it's making everybody else feel like they need to respond to the emails on weekends and nights." And I had to write this email to my marketing team that said, like, do as I say, not as I do. Don't
Yeah.
feel obligated to respond to anything urgently unless I mark it as urgent.
Yeah. 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 That's a interesting. experience. And like if we're zooming forward, Max, to what you're doing right now with the go to market fund and the portfolio companies, there's probably like I don't know exactly how, or when you're investing in them, they're probably pretty early stage. So are you working with some of the founders and some of the go to market teams on like how to do more with less and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're mostly working with the founders, CEO. Oftentimes, as the team grows, we're helping hire the go-to-market teams, or we're working directly with the go-to-market leaders to, hire out their teams. So certainly working with them, always trying to focus on effectiveness and efficiency, whether that means hiring the best people and getting out of their way, setting the tone for the organization in many ways is another approach, and then leveraging technology to make everything smoother, faster. I mean, we have portfolio companies that we oftentimes broker intros to other portfolio companies because we're like, oh, hey, you're doing what this company needs. Talk to these
Yeah.
folks. And
Yeah.
then we just, because we have an LP base of go-to-market leaders, oftentimes we're kind of on the cutting edge of what technology is most helpful or what playbooks are most helpful, for these early stage companies.
Right, right. So like, the one of the focuses of the podcast is how go-to-market leaders, revenue leaders, entrepreneurs, how they unlock go-to-market leverage. And so way back when you were at Udemy working with virtual assistants, like pretty cutting edge stuff, and then early power user of the sales technology and sales tools. But in some ways, those things are commoditized now.
Mhm.
And so talk to me about how you got the idea to start the go-to-market fund, like the pitching it, or this is an idea, then you were testing it, validating it, and suddenly now it's been running and you have some funds that are gone.
Yeah, definitely. So, I do think we're in a new wave of kind of your ability to hack sales. I think we're in a wave where it's incredibly important for you to understand how to do prompt writing, for you to understand which programs like, OpenAI, ChatGPT, is one of them. Perplexity is another one of them. But then even like into like niche areas of your business, Operator.ai is another one of them. But what are the different programs you should use to do more with less that you can use AI for these days and LLMs? But for me right now, starting the fund, we had this hypothesis of what if we raised $1 million from 20 to 50 of my GTM leader friends. We put it into 10 companies, 100K each, and we can actually positively affect the outcome of those companies. And what we ended up having was building was pretty interesting because each one of our LPs acts as a node for deal flow, diligence, uh, candidate placement, and playbook support. So we've got a really interesting flywheel that comes out of that because if we are if we have like the head of global sales at Square, for example, we're going to get fintech deals. If we have the CRO Procore, we're going to get construction tech, prop tech, and tech deals. So we can source some of the best deals that are coming out of these companies, whether it's an employee that's leaving one of those companies and going to start something new, or somebody who seeks advisory from somebody that's high up in that space. We get sent that deal flow. Same thing for diligence. If we already see a deal, we can go back to those types of people and say, hey, what do you think about this deal? And ask really detailed questions and understand if this is actually a commercially viable opportunity and something we should invest in. So we can do proprietary diligence on deals. And then we have our network of GTM leaders that we can go and tap and say, hey, we have a company that's hiring a VP of demand gen. Do you know anybody? And then we've got this amazing network and come together and say, yeah, I have this person I used to work with, or I know this person who's looking. So we're able to crowdsource a lot of candidates. And then playbooks. If we have somebody who's looking to build their first customer community, we have the person who built it from scratch at Atlassian, the person who built it from scratch at Salesforce. Obviously, multiple CMOs have done it at their companies. Same thing with comp plans. We've got folks who've been there, done that comp planning, and our LPs love getting involved and engaging with these portfolio companies, and they have equity in these companies through the investment in the fund, but also there's oftentimes opportunities for further advisories, so a little extra upside in these companies. And then we have our enterprise Slack with all of our LPs in there. So there's this community aspect of it where we're able to have the LPs connect with each other, offer up career opportunities, career advancement, opportunities for advisory, just overall networking. We do 10 dinners a year. We do an LP retreat. So there's definitely this community element to it. And then there's the media side of the business. So we actually bought back Sales Hacker for pennies on the dollar. When Scott and I were no longer at Outreach anymore, I think kind of the heart and soul of Sales Hacker started to fade away. It had also been around for 10 years. So it was a good time to kind of shut it down and reset it. And so bought that back, shut it down, relaunched it as GTMnow. We got almost 55,000 subscribers that are active and freshly clean list. And we have the podcast. We rebranded as the GTM podcast. And we're able to put our community of GTM leader LPs on episodes of the podcast, showcase our kind of collective expertise and proven experience. And when people listen to that, founders listen to that, they're more interested in potentially raising money from us. So that goes back to the fund, which we have a $50 million fund that we deploy out of into early stage companies that are all in the B2B SaaS space. So it's this nice little flywheel where kind of the community powers the media provides more visibility to the fund. The community also generates deal flow for the fund, diligence for the fund, opportunities for the portfolio companies. So we felt like we built a really unique and differentiated product and venture, and that's been validated by one, the access that we've gotten to do the deals that we've done so far, which has generated a 1.6x MOIC so far in Fund 2, and then also at the same time validated by our ability to raise in this time where it's been one of the hardest fundraising environments, 75 million total across since 2021. So that's that's pretty good validation. We've got some big funds involved now. It's not just GTM leaders, but we've got about 300, I think a little over 300 GTM leaders who are investors in the fund with us.
That's cool. I did not expect to think about what you had built here as like kind of a HubSpot flywheel, but like it is there's all the different pieces to it. And so your original hypothesis was raise $1 million, get $1 million and then distribute it out. And so you validated that hypothesis, and then you've 50x'd it in terms of what you've done with
Yeah,
GTM.
75x across the two funds. Yeah, I mean, it was properly validated. We were able to show that we can get access to great deals and actually meaningfully improve companies and affect the outcomes. So we validated it in every way, and we've just built on that since. And to your point about the HubSpot, flywheel, yeah, we consider ourselves a product. I mean, our fund is a product. We built a product. So we look at everything like that. We're former operators. We didn't come from the VC background. There are pros and cons to that. But the big pro is that we build scalable infrastructure and understand kind of how to build this like product / GTM motion.
Very cool. So Max, what are you excited about these days?
Oh man, lots of things. I'd say like the three categories that we invest in the most are vertical SaaS. We've got, just so many industries that have been untouched by technology in the past few years, and so that's really exciting. We're seeing a lot there. One of our highest performing companies is a company called CISO Labor. They do automate HR and H-2A visas for farmers. So very excited about vertical SaaS. Very excited about AI infrastructure. We're in a company called Writer. Early investors in a company called Writer. Just raised at a $1.9 billion valuation. So they've raised twice since we've invested, and they do kind of enterprise, what OpenAI does, but like for enterprise, closed end, and doing extremely well. But we have a lot of investments in that space. Operator.ai is another one. And then I'd say the third bucket is global infrastructure. So almost like where do we believe the future is going? I'm a shareholder in SpaceX on the secondary markets. Big believer in the future of SpaceX, and it's not an Elon thing. I actually own no Tesla, but I'm a huge believer in SpaceX. Ultimately, I think Starlink is going to cover the 70% of the planet that doesn't have Wi-Fi. And give them Wi-Fi access. And if that happens, what does that enable? We're already seeing Starlink on planes and things like that. But what if you can now have high-powered Wi-Fi access in the middle of the ocean on an oil rig, or in the middle of a
Right, right.
desolate area of Africa or
The
something like
use
that?
cases. Yeah.
Yeah, then you can enable data centers in those areas, portable containerized data centers. So we invest in a company called Armada Systems that does just that. What about the future of nuclear? Big believers that is making a comeback. Okay, so we invested in control rooms, which does sensors for nuclear and petrochemicals.
Right.
So, those are the three areas I think we're most excited about. I think even outside of our own portfolio, um, early investor in Multicoin, early in Bitcoin, Solana, a couple of these other cryptocurrencies, and then I do some stuff on the public markets in line with um, kind of my view that I built for my early stage investing through the fund. So there's oftentimes that I'll have a hypothesis for the fund I'll learn a lot about, and then for the fund we'll make investments, but also for my private portfolio I'll do the same thing in an area that like we don't invest from the fund. So for example, if I have that SpaceX belief, or there are other companies in the SpaceX ecosystem that I can invest in. Well, I got in early in a public company called Rocket Labs, which is doing really well, very similar um, to SpaceX in that sense. And then on the secondary market, bought a bunch of Cerebra systems. When NVIDIA started rocketing, I was like, what's going to be the private version of this? There's got to be more competition. There's got to be up and comers here. So what I love about my job in general is that I'm kind of always learning and trying to underwrite certain spaces. And then once I find one that I like, I can invest in it through the fund and hopefully make my LPs a lot of money. But then there's also opportunities in my own private portfolio in late stage secondaries or publics, or crypto even, where I can kind of exercise that muscle. So I love what I do. Again, everything I do is a lifestyle, not a job. So for me, it's just all one big kind of mental exercise, thought exercise.
Very cool. So, Max, a little bit much closer to home. What's the coolest or your favorite thing in your home office setup? I see the I don't know if that's real grass or if it's a piece of artwork, and I recall you used to have maybe an elephant or some sort of artwork in back of you. So yeah, closer to home in your home office, what is it?
Yeah, this is the home office. Put the elephant in the main house, but um,
Nice.
got the acoustic wood wall panel behind.
Yeah.
Got the living wall with the moss, um, and I have this rhino picture over here. It's hard to see, but it's a rhino, and it's like painted on a storefront in like a rundown city, and it says "I am a unicorn." So I kind of like that. I think that's probably one of my favorite things because it's just kind of like um, you are what you believe you are. You can do anything, and
Yeah.
then I yeah, I don't really. I'm not tied to anything. I think like my office is usually an aisle seat on an airplane. So as long as I have my laptop, I'm happy.
Cool. That's like back to your sales hacker days, right? Traveling around. So
Yeah, it's just how it goes.
cool. And so that's a living, breathing, CO2 or oxygen generating wall in back of you, piece of art.
Yeah, this is moss wall. This is like probably 3 feet by 3 feet, and then we have a couple in the main house that are like 6 by 4 or something like that.
Okay, that's cool. And it looks like your panels. You're New York. You're a New Yorker, right? Hamptons, right? It looks like the Hamptons. I don't know if that's where you are.
That's the style I'm going for. We're in Paradise Valley, Arizona, so yeah, this is the place for these months of the year.
You got like your seersucker. Like it's just like yeah, maybe in the summer
Yeah,
you get a seersucker suit or something.
yeah. Well, we need more white and light blue when we're in the Hamptons. Yeah,
Nice. Um, cool. Shout out Summer House, the show. That's a fun one. I don't know if you ever watch any Bravo TV. So,
I haven't. My
uh,
wife probably does. I know she
yeah,
does
I got sucked into the Bravo sphere, but yeah, you got other stuff
some
to
of
focus
those.
on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, Max, this has been great. Anything, to close out, you want any calls to action? It sounds like you're doing really well with the fund, but maybe there's a shout out to a portfolio company or some of the reinvented sales hacker or go to market stuff like that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, definitely jump in and check out GTMnow if you haven't already. That's our new media entity. So up and running strong. Got some great podcast episodes in there. Sophie Buenassasi is doing a great job of running that for us. And then we incubated a company called Operator.ai, which right now is largely in like a stealth beta, but get on the wait list. I think that's going to be really interesting alternative to kind of the Clays and the Zoom infos and some of those out there. Maybe even use them in conjunction with those companies. But yeah, that should be an interesting one. So shout out for this audience to Operator.ai.
All right, we'll link that out when this comes out.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
All right, thanks, Max. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leader Leverage Podcast. If you'd like to connect or learn more, you can find me on LinkedIn at Andrew Kappel, or you can check out and subscribe at leaderlev.com. That's www.leaderlev.com.